to play some of these AD solo laners as well, if you want to go towards something a bit more fighter-based, which of course YSKM really wants to do. We are getting Doggo's Aphelios though, that's back on the table, and Ning is playing something which is an LPL special as well. Viego's out.
Let's go. I am very, very curious because now this gives a lot of power to Ning. And that is interesting with a little bit of the flexibility possible for the Gragas. I want to see how IG play around with this. They're going to lock in the Lucian Nami.
Okay, so Lucian Nami, we have seen stuff like the Aphelios Lulu be an answer into this historically. In this split, it's not something that we've seen as much. In fact, actually, the Aphelios has been coming out more as an answer to Zeri lanes. Zeri has actually been struggling into Aphelios, going Bloodthirster first, kind of taking over the laning phase. But Aphelios Lulu, very strong laning combination in Lucian Nami. You can also look towards something like a Nautilus as well if you prefer to have more setup from that bot side. But timing down, the lock-in duration, and they're going to go lock in that Lulu instead. So we wanted to see some aggression out of this bot side. We wanted to see maybe Doggo with some ability to scale into the game as well, with Ning making his way down there, particularly knowing how aggressive Arn and Wink can be, and that is exactly what we've got.
Yeah, I see that aggression for On and Wink, and that's what makes me happy here. But how they play into the Aphelios Lulu is the biggest question. Now we are going to get those solo lane focuses. We get the Galio, so a little bit of that team cohesion gone away in that aspect. But the Scion also banned away from Hery, so no easy tank matchup there.
Well, Fiora's still on the table, so I think the Scion ban is there just saying that, okay, all right, if you're going to ban away, if we ban away this, it means that even if you do ban away something like that Fiora, which of course they do at this point, which is of course a YSKM special, we don't have to be stuck in a tank matchup, which we can't deal with in a side lane threat. Of course, YSKM, big Jax player as well, and a big player of stuff like the Aurelia. As we're going through these last bans though, we'll have to be questioning what the blind pick will now be from Ultra Prime, because you've kind of matched first 3 picks, jungle, bot lane. You're going to have to blind pick something on 4.
I wonder, I mean, I guess Cho'Gath's still on the table. You have a couple little answers.
It's good pick right now. Was buffed in this patch. Yeah,
it was. And yeah, we'll see what the final kind of setup is. Obviously, Ultra Prime have that counter pick. They're on this red side. They have a little bit of strength in a team fight composition here. We get this Syndra actually locked in for Qing, so a Qing special at least. And we'll see if that kind of sustained and some late game carry comes through for them, because they're definitely opting into Ning having a lot of forward of power and wait for Doggo and Qing to come online.
And, you know, I was just having a quick look. I actually think this is maybe Ning's first Viego game. I was looking through his history. Not actually sure he's played that champion before, which is crazy to me, given that he's played at the highest level for a little while, and that champion has been right up there amongst them. On the other side, though, YSKM going back towards something which he's played an awful lot of. Jax coming through for the top laner of IG. This is something that we was very expected. So I have to see what Hery can blind pick, well, rather counter that with on the very last bit. And Gideon potentially picking up the Poppy. Of course, the Gragas is the flex between that mid lane and the jungle. With a number of, it's also very good at denying the Viego, right? Because if you go in for a W, you can just kind of get stuck in the front line.
Yeah.
So it is going to be that Poppy going into the jungle.
Okay.
That means that Viego doesn't just have the ability to just kind of like level 3 kind of burst out something like a Gragas. The Poppy can actually fight back a little bit in that way. So an interactive jungle match, Hery goes for the Kennen.
We're getting exactly what we kind of were looking at, right? Like we have the option of a late game team composition here for Ultra Prime, something a little bit different as well coming out of the jungle instead, and then we get a very roundabout team composition, a lot of execution needed for IG, where they have Dove on the Gragas in mid lane, YSKM is on the Jax in the top, got a lot of power.
Yeah, exactly. And for me, it's also a really good power spike right from one item, really. Actually, both of these teams, pretty big one-item spike. Feels like Ultra Prime, if they get towards 2 items onto Syndra and Aphelios, maybe they can burst out parts of the combo from IG, particularly something like this Poppy. Poppy is not tanky the later you go into the game. You're tanky from, you know, base kind of base abilities before items kind of come into play, and then maybe at that 1 item mark as well. We'll see what the build is coming in from Gideon. But on the other side, you know, look at IG. If this Gragas and this Lucian Nami at 1 item get to force flashes out of the Syndra, out of the Aphelios Lulu, punish them as they're trying to fight over mid waves, IG, on just flick of a switch, they can throw their ultimates out at Ultra Prime, and none of them want to be tanking Invictus Gaming's burst, particularly around these kind of laning priority setups.
And the thing I see here is obviously Ultra Prime were very clear that they wanted to go in for a teamfight composition. You have a lot of spacing and a lot of a very nice setup in terms of peel or even engage for IG. So they obviously had a plan coming into that. They want some early aggression, but they have some tools that if it goes to late game, they can pick apart some of the teamfight pieces of Ultra Prime. And coming into this one, it is the end of week number 7. It is an important kind of milestone here for IG to push themselves to that 7 series win score, while Ultra Prime trying to bounce back themselves. We're hitting the rift for the first time of the day. IG versus Ultra Prime.
5-man fan across the rift. Wards put down. Particularly important is that ward which Ning put in that top lane brush. Very important in range versus melee matchups to get some kind of brush control. It means that Jax can't just kind of dip into that brush, threaten walking out with a counter-strike, stunning you at level 1. It is going to be the AP Kennen. You do occasionally see AD Kennen not really into Jax, he just pops counter-strike and ignores all those auto attacks that you can bully out with.
Don't you just love that?
It's very helpful for that champion. But so Hery going to have a bit of a lane bully matchup towards this top, taking the Scorch, got the bone plating as well, so even if YSKM does want to jump in on him, going to be hard to do that the first time of asking. So, going to see Gideon start on Raptors, Ning start on that red buff. So we're going to have some diversified pathing from these junglers. Not going to be going exactly one side of the map the other.
I'm wondering how aggressive we see that early pathing as well, and especially from Ning, they looking to kind of skirmish a little bit. Now, that jungle matchup does seem a little bit wonky in terms of how you're going to find pressure and just kind of walking around, but we do see that opposite side start, so I do wonder if we get kind of wrap around towards mid, or if maybe a little bit of opposite focus here, where On and Wink will probably have a little bit of strength, so maybe a response from Ning in that fashion.
Well, at level 1, Aphelios isn't exactly a champion, so you have that strength for now.
Well, you know what, it gets 200 years later, so I like,
yeah, that's a bit
level
different.
1.
You need to have like the Dragon Ball Z hyperbolic time chamber. It just like come out. It's like, well, okay, I've done my training up to this point, and that actually happens all between level 1 and level 2. It turns out.
That's it.
And this is, I mean, speaking of kind of like the hyperbolic time chamber, you know, blink and you miss it. Doggo has played. This is Doggo's 40th game of Aphelios. He exploded onto the scene playing from PCS. And, you know, subbing into PSG Talent when they kind of needed that emergency substitute many years ago, and when Unified couldn't play at that Worlds run back in 2020 was the first time he showed up there. But he did that on Aphelios, realistically, and the years after that, this champion has been almost synonymous with the name of Doggo. Gideon looking towards mid. There's potential flash from Dove available too. Wave's not in a great spot for the Syndra. And this is going to be something that we're going to have to look out for. Because Syndra is not safe versus this composition. If you are not threatening them as the Syndra, you are being threatened yourself.
Just trying to get the flash early. There is the flash. Oh my god! You blinked and you missed it. Qing is down. First blood to IG.
This is the problem with playing Syndra into these sorts of champions. You need to be very careful where the wave is. Qing pushed in that wave, and that's great and all, but Ning isn't walking across the river to contest the enemy jungler. If Ning doesn't have eyes on where Gideon is, you are in loads and loads of danger. So Qing goes down to first blood, picked up by Gideon across the other side of the rift. It is at least going to be double flashes blown from IG, but taking away flash and also still having the wave in a really good spot for IG side of things. Qing just has to sit here and just eat a really awkward laning phase.
Really, really good capitalization on, you know, a new promotion into the LPL. Qing in his rookie split here and getting punished by IG's Wonder Duo in mid lane.
Yeah, just can't afford to have the wave at that point if you're not crashing it. If you're not able to kind of force that under tower, big danger. Of course, that's what came out at that point. CV2 going about evenly as you can expect, even in that farm. Bursty on both sides, so you need to be very careful about that how much. This is more important, though, for Qing and Ning as well, because if Qing is pushing in while the Viego is on the enemy Raptors, that's great. Who cares if you're pushed up? You're not alone at that point. You're not kind of stuck on the enemy side of the map, so important that Qing kind of links up with his jungler for that point. And to my knowledge, this is Ning's first ever Viego game. Historic player in the LPL, picking up one of the historic champions for this as well.
He did have a year to play. I checked. He had a year to play it.
He had a year
in his last year before he took the break. But no, yeah, it's interesting, and I love that he's taking these kind of aggressive moments. Right, he's going for some of these invades, see if he make it out alive here. But did steal some of those crutchies.
Yeah, but luckily with no flash on the Poppy, you are safe to get a little bit further into the jungle. It's not like you have like a Nautilus or a Braum on the other side to engage in the support role as well. So it gets away with that Raptor Steal. Still, of course, looking at the first blood on the other side, the jungle matchup, and that's kind of a little bit awkward in terms of the gold being built up by the Poppy. Goes towards that Barmy's first, tops out with that clear. However, Ning might actually... Oh, actually, with those items, this is important to note as well. So we used to see a lot of Divine Syndra on the Viego with the changes coming in on this patch in 13.4. So you know when Viego hits someone with like an ability, the next auto attack has like a second mini hit on it, allows you to kind of get through a lot of attacks. That damage can now critically strike. So we're seeing a lot of crit Viego coming back out again, which you also... Viego has a lot of crit scaling in his kit, his Q and his ult. I believe both have that as well. So you are seeing some Kraken Slayer sometimes. I mean, I've only seen Kraken Slayer so far, because of course the amount of ult effects we put out. Very, very powerful. We have seen some shield blow in the past. In fact, I seem to remember there also being some... There have been a lot of different Viego builds.
A lot of stuff. A lot of, you know, we'll see what he grabs out of the magical bag. I do want to take a look here because it looks like IG are putting a bit of onus on this early dragon area, so to at least get a little bit of vision game down. Obviously, we're seeing Ning take a little bit of a foothold himself in terms of the CS differential. We'll see Gideon try to establish a little bit of control around the neutral objective. I think that behooves IG in their competition to try to execute on.
Behooves.
I
rarely hear that in regular conversation, despite, you know, throwing out some words myself. But, you can see Gideon Hex on the spot side. Has Hex Flash. Is just going to be clearing out a ward for now, though. There was the outside chance of a dive play coming in, but against the exhaust and the heal, been very dangerous to do so. Ning now going to be on call towards the spot side of the jungle as well, and Ning maybe finding his first way into a fight with Gideon. No flash from that.
You kind of want this fight though, right? Like you have a little bit of collapse coming. I saw that Baolan was actually on the move first. Gideon getting a nice trade on the Ning as well. Qing is there, does have the power unleashed though, so got to be a bit careful. We will see the full roam though, at least from the bottom lane of IG, trying to move out for that vision we were just talking about.
Well, kind of point of logic, I suppose. If you were already threatening the dive in bot side, the wave control is on your side. You're pushing that wave under tower. If you're not going to use that wave under tower for kind of aggressive play onto the Aphelios Lulu, what are you going to use it for? They use it to leave lane and go support Gideon. You at least get a chunk out of Ning and allows them to kind of retain some vision control towards this bot side of the map and stop Ning kind of getting into bot side river. And for the time being, Arn and Wink are going to keep playing aggressively through the Lucian Nami, importantly so. We have seen a lot of teams across the world just kind of lock in the Lucian Nami because it's what everyone else does. They don't really achieve that much with it. LPL, on the whole, has been a lot better with using the laning power of this duo and also using the one item spike of this duo as well to great advantage. And with Arn and Wink playing aggressively right now, important that they keep that up because as soon as they hit one item, we saw how Qing can get caught out by the mid jungle. Bot lane can very much come to party and make that mid lane even more unhappy.
I just always love it because it just feels like Lucian as a whole.
You love mid lane unhappiness.
Well, maybe. It depends as an ADC player. But I think it is kind of that aspect of Lucian scale. It will be a scaling champion with mechanical skill, right? And we have seen that executed in the LPL a lot of times where Lucian in late game is still able to find so much in a lot of these situations. So I do like this, but I like this a lot more. Gideon.
Put him back into tower?
He could. Hery does have the slicing maelstrom. Will pop it. Does a decent amount back to YSKM. The flash has come out. Dub is here. He tries to get in the task here maybe, but he doesn't need it. The slam down and Dub gets the kill.
Ultimates from that Kennen, not enough to save him. Pushed up a little too far. Gideon finds his way into a lane once again. And this has been something which Gideon has put a lot of work into doing better and better for his team, because it felt like earlier in the split, because he was playing so much in the Maokai, it felt like he was just responding to his lanes, just kind of maintaining them. His lanes were winning already, but Gideon would turn up to just give them the extra little bit of oomph. Now with stuff like the Gragas games he's played recently, the Poppy which he's pulled out a couple of times as well, he's actually been the one aggressing and actually finding success with that aggression as well. Killing that top side, killing the mid lane as well a little earlier, and this gets them the Herald too. Of course, Ultra Prime are going to take that Dragon towards the bot side. That's kind of the trade for it, and Gideon is falling behind in the individual farm department. But for the Poppy, who, you know, does need to make the use of these early levels, this is a pretty good start.
I like the difference I guess we're seeing in the jungle is a little bit of that Ning focus here, but Gideon just sitting pretty, waiting for the team. Also getting up that Rift Herald for themselves, and a bit of stabilization top I feel like does wonders for IG, where YSKM was kind of having a bit of trouble up there in terms of CS, but also control of the lane. But that definitely sets things even, getting a couple of those plates up there and refocus back into mid, back into bot for IG.
Of course, you got the Herald in inventory as well, which can continue to be a big power play threat for IG. But yeah, Kennen's doing fine in that laning phase. CS advantage, got themselves a plate as well towards that top side. Kind of expect that from this matchup. Jax doesn't really enjoy playing into that Kennen. Gets burst out a little bit in these early levels. Gideon making his way towards top again.
The jungler is like, well, we get a lot of love top lane. Let's see what happens.
Ning is here this time.
This might be huge. Slicing Maelstrom is back up. Hery pops it. Now the stun comes through. The YSKM.
Reset.
It's getting low. He goes for the play. Oh my God! It will go down for Ning, and the resets come through. Get the stun back, and Ning is looking for more. Heartbreaker misses.
Qing!
Knockback for Qing. Doesn't hit, but the power unleashed always hits. As the no more fun button has been pressed, Ultra Prime put themselves on the board.
And this time, Ning is there to respond. Viego has forever been pretty good at countering those ganks. Has a lot of damage to bring to bear. He gets himself a kill, an assist, and Qing gets to secure themselves a kill as well. IG putting some pressure towards his top side in the last couple of minutes. If he had gotten away with this play, it would have been very strong opportunity to drop something like that Herald as well, get YSKM again into an even more stable position. That Kennen ult being back up though, really, really dangerous for IG to jump into it. He's got very, very close as the Spectral Wall was actually tanked up by Gideon as he kind of dove across his top lane path. Almost outplayed it, almost managed to burst out Ning after the second play as well. But not to be the case. And you make one mistake into that Viego, exactly what happens after that point. Reset City. It's your next stop on that transport system. Ning is down towards the bot side as well. Herald can be putting flex in towards Lucian.
There's a lot of gold going over there. Ning was trying to be here as a bit of a response to himself. I can't find it now. On top of being able to get those kills and get some early advance for himself, he's also just got a gigantic CS lead over Gideon. You know, that is somewhat common to see, you know, 20 CS in jungle sometimes, but 40 CS is a pretty big moniker at this point. I'm really wondering how he uses this power and kind of this early advantage Ultra Prime have done against a very kind of bar of execution needed comp for IG.
Yeah, the bar of execution is going to start really coming online with the Lucian hitting that first time. Once you see the Imperial Mandate as well, need to really see Arn and Wing leave their footprint on this game, because currently as it stands, pretty even in terms of this goal. We did briefly mention IG do very well at the 1 item mark, particularly from Poppy downwards on the map. Jackson kind of just keeps scaling into infinity, that's a bit different. Ultra Prime on the other side though, give them 2 items. Very happy to play out this game, and you can see Doggo building towards the Bloodthirster first as well. This Aphelios will start taking off sooner rather than later, so pay attention to what's happening between these air carries. Is the Lucian going to get value before the Aphelios really comes online? And that bar of execution, big part of that.
Yeah, it is, and we're actually seeing those first items come up across the board almost for IG. Oh, let's see the Roa? Oh my God, Doggo.
This is exactly what we need to see.
There,
exactly what we need to see. Yeah, you can't afford to set your laurels. How's that Lucian arm? Got to do something with that power spike. Dub.
Cask into the body slam here. Qing's in a little bit of trouble. The combo has been used though. Dub's going to try to chase him down. Ning is here. Signals Dub's retreat, maybe the white flag. Moonlight Viego coming out just to get a little bit of pressure back onto On, but it's another play, a fourth one to IG's bot lane.
The rarely seen Infernum Moonlight Vigil for wave clear. You tag it off the champion, a little like burst comes out and allows them to clear out some of these waves, but is it enough? Gideon's coming down, they see him. They're trying to use this trying to use the Infernum to clear the wave.
See if they can actually pull this off a little bit more here. Gideon has pulled off of the dive at least, and the defense has come through for Ultra Prime.
Actually, yeah, no, let's talk about that, because that is the kind of play which you only see from a player that understands like the limits of their champion. It's a small thing. It's just knowing that actually, you know, if I tag this champion, I can actually clear this wave. And if I don't clear this wave, I'm getting domed, so I need to make this happen. So he throws out that ultimate, and importantly so. Little moment of kind of like that niche mastery on the champion of Felix, which does benefit so much from that. It is a champion with a lot of kind of hidden insight into him, the way he kind of changes between your weapons and set
Hery just gets first tower here.
This is actually the first tower. You're absolutely right. Yeah, even with the Herald going over the other side, and even with Gideon getting into lanes early, not enough to stop Hery.
Who needs a bit to guide him?
Who needs it? Of course, towers take extra damage the more penetration you have, and this also includes magic penetration. So even though you're not doing that much damage with your auto attacks, that magic pen does actually apply towards towers. So building up those oily sources.
Kraken Slayer for ning. There's that play you were talking about.
Yeah, so lots of damage to be coming in from Ning. Should he get on top of the use? Lots of damage coming from Qing as well. He's built up that Luden's first item hit across the board for everyone. That includes the Imperial Mandate coming in from that Nami. Very important to talk about that first item from that support as well. And now we're getting to the point where second Herald spawning. 2 dragons have already been taken, so it's not like we don't actually have a 2 dragon stack, so it's not like there's going to be an early soul threatened on this ocean rift. Really wondering where the first big 5v5 can come in, the first big skirmish. We've seen
it's
some
looking like it's about to be this.
It's been all through lane so far. Playing through this mid lane priority, you've got ultimates from Lucian Nami, that can be very important to look for. Hery off vision on the flank.
They don't have YSKM's TP either, so it looks like they just give this one.
Yeah. This realistically shouldn't be a play at this point. The only way that I could have played around something was picking off something like Doggo Baolan. If they kind of stood up in this mid lane, and Lucian Nami just absolutely running them. Doing that with the Severing Shield and the Bloodthirster Shield.
God, I love watching these ADCs go at each other. They just get to stand there punching each other. It's like watching a boxing match. Rift Herald will be popped in mid lane by Ning. So we can get the charge off and knock back.
Goodbye.
Goodbye, Qing.
Okay, Syndra has left the building. Waddles his way back up towards that top lane actually now. He says, well, okay, you don't want your mid lane, I guess I'll go fight top wave, I guess. Syndra walks towards that one. YSKM is, does have now 2 long lanes to play towards. Ning spots out Doggo and Gideon, topside jungle.
I want to see this though, pushing the pressure for IG, trying to find where they can break Ultra Prime at least earlier on. They'd get a bit of a flank maneuver here from Qing. If Ning could actually chase down Dove, who's getting lower and lower here. Heartbreaker through, he flashes, beautifully done from Dove. Here comes Hery though, he's about to threaten that engage. Culling to the face though on clearing up a little bit.
Yeah, I can understand the aggressive posturing from IG because they're trying to play through this one-item spike. You have these very powerful members of the block side.
Oh my god, Doggo! The wild growth saves the day. The grab of Moonlight Vigil goes wide on, almost taking out Doggo.
And Doggo very nearly hitting that Q into ult from that rifle right afterwards. That was very close for kills either way between the AD carries. But this is exactly how IG need to be playing, because if you don't get to play through this power spike, that near turnaround kill from that Aphelios becomes just an absolute destruction after that point. So bot lane is at least giving as good as it takes. On and
it was that rapid fire completion.
Yeah,
just trying to use that kind of power spike every time he gets him as much as he can. I think I love that communication, obviously.
It's good that you mentioned it, actually, because there's been some, you know, some people saying, you know, oh man, why are people still building this item on the Lucian? Just go towards the very quick blades, it's so much more power. You're absolutely right, but it's also more expensive. When you're playing this kind of composition where it is about early power, matching the Imperial Mandate spike as well, sometimes happens after you've built your first item as well. Building rapid fire cannon, it's a very quick spike in power to make sure you're still on curve. It allows you to make more plays like that.
It's heart racing too, my god, like you just know that at any moment with a rapid fire you can just get that damage connected on you from Doggo, or to Doggo, I guess.
Yeah, it also allows you to play around the waves pretty well, because of course exactly what Lucian Nami are doing. Rapid fire allows you to get that first auto attack on the wave, allows you to jump past it, get long range order to fire things off as well. 1 minute until that dragon, being able to play around those mid waves with items like that, of course, very, very important. If this game doesn't start to explode through kills and through skirmishes, maybe objectives will heat things up a little in its own regard. So, with a minute until that dragon, we'll see what the setup is looking like. Currently, with that Lucian Nami in its point of power, it's hard to outpush in this mid lane. Khan has walked back to take that red buff, of course, to help him stay in there as well.
At least get a little bit of extra oomph. But yeah, that dragon, I think right now, Ultra Prime are looking at it. Can we get this kind of late game insurance policy on top of the picks that we got? And maybe using a little bit of pressure from Ning. Again, that has been the key for me, because he is that forward sword in the early game, or at least was. And now looking at his mid to late game, it's going to be about how he transitions that little bit of advantage that he's gotten and that kind of facilitation into Qing and Doggo. We've seen a little bit of that. Maybe not Doggo getting all the resources just yet.
Ning managed to respond to a couple of the later plays made by Gideon. Of course, wasn't there to save his mid lane at the very start. I'm jumping forward
That
again.
was a big shield that she's got. Imagine that was his health bar.
That's why this Bloodthirster first build coming out so much more priority on stuff like the Misfortune and the Aphelios, despite it kind of working for their kicks as well, kind of during up.
We're literally just... We're A-ramming in the mid lane until the dragon spawns. I love it.
Because
It's already gone. Oh my god!
IG's composition does so well around this point of the game, and they specifically do well around threatening you when you're playing for the mid wave. Ning hits the ground just as the dragon spawns. IG, despite not getting huge amounts for their kind of the power spike so far, do get a very important victory there. They win through mid lane. They get themselves a dragon after that point. Big moment for them. How did this come across? Of course it does.
Just feels like
through,
Ultra Prime, we're not sure how much damage they do. Like, it just does so much instantly.
And there's also like there's no connection to threat as well. If there was a ward behind IG and there was a teleport for Hery, maybe that play goes very different. But Ultra Prime, they have to be on the backstep. That's kind of where the Nami comes into the equation, right? As soon as that tidal wave is thrown out, you don't have that same liberty to go forward unless you're going to start committing a load of flashes, which would not have been wise in that situation. So IG, they start to pull ahead a little bit. 1,000 gold ahead, some extra gold towards their team shared across, and of course Dragon being picked up gets them ahead in the objectives too. It's not like they have themselves a sole point though. It's not going to force Ultra Prime into too many difficult positions right now. The question is, have they done enough, despite that victory, to really get them to a point where they can kind of stop Ultra Prime scaling, getting very scary?
So I will say we're getting to the point where we really start seeing a lot more influence from Hery and YSKM a little bit more so, and Ultra Prime need Hery to have a lot of setup. The other thing I was kind of flabbergasted as, we don't have that exhaust as a counter to that slicing maelstrom big backline push, and I'm wondering how that worked out, where there's going to be a lot of damage coming in fights. Yeah, fights coming late are going to be really scary. You have nothing to calm the storm, if you will.
Yeah.
I guess you have the cast. You're just hoping to push the storm away from you.
You've got the cast and you've got the Poppy ultimate as well. But I think IG's name of the game is that if you have committed to a fight where the Kennen is going to be a big threat, you've probably not played through your spike before the fight well enough. A lot of what IG does is, as we've seen, they try and go for the big Lucian Nami combos before the 5v5 kind of erupts. Doug trying to play blocker right now. Rodave just stacking up on this
so painful.
Stacks up on that Gragas. He is very tanky and allows it to play more aggressively as kind of this
Bye, Doggo.
Doggo's gone. He's been evicted from the building. Bounces have denied him entry into this club in the middle.
Well, that's down very nice.
Go down, but
oh, they got the flank. They got the flank. They might have the knockback here. Hery with the slicing maelstrom right onto the back line. The Heartbreaker starts to come through, and the hearts of IG are sliced. YSKM might find a little bit something. Dove is still pretty tanky. Got a little bit careful though. Nice backup and huge turnaround from IG to get something back, but Ultra Prime solidify their ranks. They're looking to push down mid.
Last time IG went for a play in the mid lane, they didn't have a ward behind them. They didn't have to worry about Hery getting into their back line. Hery does all of his own stunts in this second time of asking though. Walks right behind them, finds the lapse of vision, and this Kennen comes to play. Sure, he's a 1-3 to KDA. It's not the most flattering thing ever, but a very important play for Ultra Prime. Allows them to take that mid lane tower off.
How much you missing that exhaust now?
Yeah, and you look at this thing down. Some of those shots are kind of important, folks. As they try and disengage Hery, but Hery gets punted back into the team by Gideon, charging back. It's a bit of an awkward one. He's going to go, ulti Kennen into the rest of the team. Look at the end of the day, they haven't been done at that point. It's just a little bit out of insult to injury. The rest of Ultra Prime kind of clean up shop as well after that point, keep themselves in touching distance of that goal, keep themselves in the game, and taking that mid lane out of turret, very important. Talk about how both of these teams are kind of fighting around this mid wave, partly because the Lucian Army just has so much power around it. They kind of hold her over the fire every chance they get on that point. Second items now starting to come across the board. This is where we start to see. Now, Ultra Prime second items, that's where they start to peak.
I believe those little pops-ups are actually the stacks recognition. You actually just hit that 100,
so,
100 stacks.
You're like Syndra Victor. Every time you get those stacks, something happens. It's kind of a little bit like your old passive where you upgrade your abilities. At 100, your ultimate, now that unleashed power, that will execute someone that falls below 15% HP from the damage of your ultimate. Once you get 120 stacks, you get yourself like half a death cap as well. It's like an extra 15% extra AP on top of that. So, Qing,
The thing is, though, Nightmare, you
strong.
just spoiled Arcane Season 2. Like, come
What do you
on,
mean?
man. Like, you just
Wait,
said
what?
Syndra Victor. Like, come on. Like, we didn't need to know, like, what was going to happen.
Yeah,
You could have just left it open.
So,
Like,
funny thing you mentioned that. One of the things I was wondering if Arcane would do is they kind of, I don't know what their plans are for the Grand Series, but it was so cool because it's actually a very similar timestamp to like the invasion of Ionia. Which is like a big moment within that. Of course, maybe we could see Syndra at that point. Although Syndra, we don't really have that much lore for Syndra.
We
Syndra's kind of
don't.
there.
we know she has a make you not have fun button. That's all she needs. Hery, though,
Harry's
not going to find a flank
Oh,
today.
no,
He gets
the
knocked back. No!
Oh, it's so sad. Dove punched the Kennen to safety.
That is a bit of a feels bad moment. YSKM has gotten the Hullbreaker spike, but they go on a Qing. He gets knocked back immediately. Tidal Wave over Ning gets the Heartbreaker out defensively. Get a TP coming, slicing Maelstrom right into the middle of everybody again. They pick out YSKM, and Ning goes back in with the reset. Power Unleashed goes through, but it's the knockback that matters. Dub is separating the team as Doggo's trying to get these chakrams into the back of Dove. Ultra Prime, they just don't quit fighting.
They don't, because Ultra Prime, they somehow find a way to get that flashless cannon right into the enemy team again. IG walk away with only the one death though, despite the eye candy being in favor of Ultra Prime and blinking health cards inside of IG. You don't get to finish off any of those kills. Doggo though, hits those two items. What were we talking about this combo? Bloodthirst into Infinity. She doesn't even need a Mythic to put out this damage. Where does this start though? YSKM, I him having his own power spike, the Hullbreaker built up. Hullbreaker's sideline out, of course, gives you something for the base stats as well. Gets him the ability to jump forward.
Dude, this TP.
And this is just the best again.
Just delivery.
Yeah. It's like, no flash, no problem. I'm just going to teleport right into the middle of it. Hery doing a really decent job of finding a way into the backline.
Yeah.
These last couple of fights on this mid lane. This whole game has been around mid lane fighting, mid lane priority. It's where IG really want to play around themselves. Ultra Prime is kind of answering from strength to strength in that regard. Every time these fights happen though, you can see again, the amount of damage that's being racked up by Ultra Prime is very dangerous for IG.
Yeah.
As soon as Doggo gets any good angle to start firing off, these fights for IG get perilous.
And you're getting 3.5 items now for On. You gotta put the pedal to the metal here, and you gotta continue to kind of push this pressure that IG have been doing. I'll give them that. Now bringing YSKM in to these team fights, they need to try to utilize the side lane pressure. He has the Hullbreaker, and I want to see them try to push this a little bit more. As Black Cleaver comes up for Ning, you're starting to get some of those item spikes coming across.
Very true. Yeah, no, I do think IG really have tried to play through this Lucian Nami power spike in a way that a couple of teams would have stalled out around the world at this point. It's one of one of my big pet peeves with the champion cover right now. A lot of people pick Lucian Nami, they don't really know how to play around that power spike. IG on his very best to trying to eclipse Ultra Prime before they come online in their own regards. But one thing which will help IG going into that late game is, of course, Jax being that one scaling option on that side lane. So Macro going to come into the contest as well. IG, as it stands, have a lot of vision to enable this split push. A lot of vision around the lanes which they pushed in. See, Ultra Prime, they are very fearful of walking forwards. Ning, despite having that,
this is scary.
That tanky. And Baolan is also not tanky.
Yeah, not taken. Just not. That's not it. The vision though from IG has been really nice, and Ultra Prime just very hesitant to move anything up, and IG playing with it, because if you overstep 1 second, you know, a cask is pushing you even further out of position, and you're being picked off.
No one in Ultra Prime is particularly tanky. If you're the one getting punted back to the team by Gragas, good luck to you. It's not going to work out too well. Jax on the side lane. Hullbreaker going to come into effect at this point, allows IG to once again have just one lane, which is, even if you're not going to be killing Hery, even if you're not necessarily going to be hitting that turret, because the Hullbreaker making Kennen so much harder to kill, you're going to have pushing lanes. Having that pushing lane means that Hery is going to be stuck under that turret.
Really quick on that.
Go on. What do you got?
I just saw the adaptation. The Hex Trigger had been picked up. I was like, okay, you're going to go into the mall, right? But he did pick up the F-Sword, so picking up the minute skills in trying to get a little bit of defensiveness. Now, Ning needs to maybe find some of that defensiveness here. That Black Cleaver ain't helping him, but I'm interested. They're just trying to find the little things to push this comp over the edge for IG.
Trying to balance the scales, find a way through this mid game. And you know, the way that we're talking right now, despite, you know, IG are in the advantage, they have themselves the gold lead, The reason we're talking about this is because you can see how much damage Ultra Prime do have to bring to bear.
Yeah,
IG,
exactly.
all it takes is them overstep once into Doggo. Game looks so different. They currently have division control. They have control around the top side of the map. They're forcing Ultra Prime into some awful decisions. You see Doggo on the sweeper.
He's got red-white.
But they have to do this. They have to make sure that Ultra Prime don't get that high.
They are in a corridor that is not helping them. Gale Force hide. He shuts the door at Ultra Prime.
So important to get that kill. IG, last minute or two of play has all been trying to force Ultra Prime into awful positions, and they finally get something.
Oh my God.
YSKM winning the side lane as well. Qing has to come down to
Gotta be careful.
too late. YSKM already done his damage at this point.
Nice
Like,
little flash,
Baron's gonna
trying
go
to get
down.
out.
Top lane is on a sliver of Baolan's on a sliver of HP. IG, the push and pull finally gets into a big event.
My goodness, what a little bit of a come up here at this moment. Now we got the 4th item in completion, at least for On. And they're going to keep pushing the tempo. Every time we've seen him complete an item, and the next time he comes onto the rift, he's dashing, he's flashing, he's finding something. And now Ultra Prime themselves looking at 3rd item for Qing, looking at that adaptation, that evolution at least, in terms of that free Gravidons, and
So,
really trying to find the damage center.
this would be Ocean Salt for IG. 3 dragons on their buffs right now. 10 seconds until that spawns. But unlike the Baron, they have been able to force Ultra Prime away from the objective. They have got complete control over this side of the map. Hery has flash, doesn't have ultimate. Importantly, though, that ultimate is used under tower to defend that Kennen.
TP behind.
IG going for the kill.
Gideon's going in right now. Ning is in trouble. Nice double knockback. And here they come onto the other 3 members. You gotta hope to capitalize as now they're turning back on a Ning. He's gone! Oh no, now everything's crumbling to dust for Ultra Prime. There's a flash from Doggo trying to get away. Nice turnaround from Qing, who has gotten that damage back. Baolan needs to be a little bit careful though, as YSKM has closed the trap, and the Grandmaster's might will be felt by Ultra Prime. IG tear apart the composition.
It was close up until it wasn't. IG, they were balancing the scales, checking the numbers, and they find themselves a solution. Game explodes off of that Baron plate. Ultra Prime scrambling around the dragon, and they can't find a way to get Doggo into the game. He hasn't died this game, but he's not been able to impact it either. Doggo's 40th champion on the Aphelios, looking like almost certainly a loss.
It is. They're pushing down with the Baron. He's got a minute left. Some resets coming through. Infernum did a lot of work there, but Ning needs to watch out with his health bar. IG going for the Nexus. They've got all the members they need. Cass comes back. Ning, not enough. And Ning, Baolan, they will not get a little bit of glory against their forward team, IG. And it will be IG who rise to the occasion in game 1.
We were a little bit worried midway through that game. Had IG done enough? Could they outlast their opponents before the big items came on, before a Kennen flank came into play, before an Aphelios combo shredded through the HP bars? But it was well played eventually to starve out that vision, put Ultra Prime over the flames around that Baron, around the objectives around the map, and come away with a win.
I was interested to see what the Viego does for Ning, giving him a little bit more onus in terms of that forward aggression, not necessarily that big facilitator all the way, and try to get your own advantages for yourself. But they weren't able to use that to bridge into that late game. There wasn't enough advantage, even if he was getting 40 CS or so in advantage over Gideon. It was that bar of execution that was met and rise the buff from IG, and we said they needed to do it. They capitalized on every item spike for On. They used their power spikes so well in this first game.
Yeah, and particularly looking at that bot lane from IG as well, we've had some questions about them. Particularly Wink has had some good games and some very bad games as well. Having a game here for Arn and Wink to settle themselves into the series, have a game where they really were the driving force of the game, very important and a good sign of what IG have been developing on. YSKM, he's played some different champions. Yeah, he's going back to something a bit more tried and tested in this game. Gideon making more early plays as opposed to being kind of like the reactive jungler, being more aggressive on that front. Of course, in this game as well, you can see that bot lane really standing up and being more stable. IG, this is a game which shows a lot of the growth they've had from that early start.
Yeah, and that's that adaptation that we really need to see at the end of a week 7. You have a couple weeks, 3 weeks left in the LPL, and you're trying to find what exactly makes you stand out, what makes you stick. Early season, we knew what made them stick. It was YSKM. It was a little bit of power from the solo lanes and some nice late game carries from On and Wink, but we had that kind of struggling system from them over these last couple weeks, and It's nice to see them kind of come into 13.4 with some of those good reads, but also finding those little adaptations.
Yeah, and IG as an organization, we know they have always been team fighters. When Ning and Baolan were on that team, they've always been very strong team fighters. But even with changing the names, it's kind of like the ship of Theseus. You know, that whole thing is like you take out different parts, you put them back. Is it the same thing? Turns out there's a lot of different things that you can work towards with that. Turns out they can retain some of that identity.
Look at that
despite
spike!
These changes
Oh my
facing.
god!
And you know, we asked the question of IG saying, this one item spike, kind of important for you guys. Need to make sure you're making the most of that. And they do. Many teams across the world don't know how to use that Lucian Nami. IG putting game 1 on the table and saying, we know how to play this combo.
Yeah, every one of those little bumps, I feel like are those item spikes. That you see just like, boop, boop. And then at the end, it's just like a skyrocketing skyscraper.
46% of his team's damage. That is
That's
absolutely
insane.
nuts. By the way, you know, so if you there is an achievement you get on ARAM specifically, where if you deal more than 40% of your team's damage, you get a little like badge for it as well in game. Well, Arn's done that on Summoner's Rift. He's done that in a pro game. He's done a pretty good job of it.
I actually want to see. I might look at the break, see if that's close to a little bit of a record in percentages at least. But we're going to take a bit of a break here. We're going to get ready for game number 2, so don't you go anywhere.